Okay, so welcome all to this event. And today I'll be talking about adoption, cloud adoption, and different trends that's moving around cloud, and finally to end with how WSO2 uh, can ease your effort, adoption effort, and your cloud journey. Okay, so to start off with, I will talk about the evolution aspect of the cloud and how we got to where we are. So as you all know, during the very early stages of civilization, we used to live alongside rivers and water streams. And later, over time with the growth, we moved into the towards the inland, and then going back and forth water was a trouble. Then we learned to dig wells and build our own water sources and storage water locally. And today we are at a state where water is a service, and it's like there's a massive reservoir, virtual reservoir above us. We subscribe to it. We open the tap and we get water whenever we want. We can subscribe to that virtual reservoir from anywhere, and we pay only for what we use. Very much similar to that, computing in 50s and 60s, computing power was available only at a handful of places like MIT and AT&T Bell Labs. The black and white picture you see here is a photo of the MIT labs. And people had to walk into these labs to get their work done. But later, over time, with the invention of the desktop computer, the computer became a household item. And now we have gone several steps further, and similar to that virtual water reservoir, we have a huge, massive virtual computer above us, and we can subscribe to that from anywhere, and we can send data to that, run all sorts of logic, do all sorts of computations, take the results back, and similar to water, we pay only for what we use. So with that, I will jump into the cloud adoption. So cloud is such a buzzword these days. So why is that? I will talk about costs, business and sales, and the productivity aspects. When it comes to cost, cloud obviously reduced the hardware cost. You don't have to own or run your own data center now. It's all virtual, and you don't have to add, that does not add any fixed cost to your balance sheet. And you just have to pay to that virtual service only for what you use. And licensing cost is a massive cost again, but with the massive usage, the licensing cost in the cloud had shrunken into a fraction of the standard cost, and that comes bundled with whatever the services you use, either for virtual machines, the operating system licensing cost, or for database systems, the licensing cost that comes bundled with that. And that gets applied only for the time that you are using those resources. And obviously, you don't need to have a specialized operations team to run your hardware or to do all the maintenance, do all the managed works, and all the managed services and data center work is completely offloaded to the cloud. So that cost is saved for you. And from the business and sales point of view, cloud introduces rapid innovation, and you don't have to depend on hardware, availability of hardware. Whenever you want to try out something, you just spin up a virtual machine along with some other resources, you do your work, and you can see the results. And that makes the delivery faster. Faster delivery means you develop fast, you invent fast, you develop fast, and you deploy fast. And deploy fast and fail fast makes you, again, going back to the invention cycle, do the development work quickly, and deploy fast to the cloud. And all those efforts boils down to the speed to market aspect. And by adopting cloud, your go-to-market speed or the speed to market becomes very aggressive. And then the productivity. Cloud offers a variety of services. It offers virtual machine services, database services, broker services, IoT applications, and it covers a whole spectrum of services. And all those are available at your fingertips. And the beauty of that is you can access that from anywhere in the world. And then we'll talk about cloud adoption, some trends that impact cloud adoptions. These are the 4 things that Gartner presented early this year. A couple of trends that impact cloud adoptions. There are some positive impacts as well as there are some negative impacts. So cost optimization is a primary thing. As we go along, you will understand enterprises are spending massive amount of efforts to see how more they can save costs or optimize their usage and eventually save costs. There are lots of services that are natively provided by cloud vendors, such as if you take AWS, there are cost explorers and services like Trusted Advisor, where they always show you what the areas that you can optimize and reduce costs. Because if you just use the cloud in the similar way as you were using your in-house data center, over time you won't be able to see a huge cost difference by adopting cloud. But if you use that mindfully, if you do all the optimization work, if you analyze all the operational data and see where you can optimize more to save more, you will see a huge improvement in your costs to the cloud. And then there's this distribution aspect, cloud distribution aspect, to improve the service quality. Over the recent past, we started hearing this term called MDC, or the micro data centers. Micro data center is a small footprint data center where a single micro data center was built for to cater some special service requirements. For example, if there's a growth, you might already know, like all cloud vendors have different data center, like huge data centers in all parts of the world. But if they see a massive growth or a demand for a particular one service from a particular country or a region, they branch off their data center and create a micro data center in that region, specifically to cater those services. And some examples for such services are IoT services, where latency is a huge concern. So whenever the IoT demand is high, almost all major cloud vendors have branched their data centers and created micro data centers in those areas. Another area would be CDN, or content delivery networks. Again, if you take Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS, they have created micro data centers specifically targeting the CDN service in most part of the world. So that is another. So if you want high latency, so if you're selecting a cloud vendor, that is another aspect that you have to look into, like the service availability or the quality of service that you can get from that particular vendor. And the other aspect is the vendor locking. Vendor locking was, again, initially when the cloud was introduced, this was not a concern at all. But over the recent past, people started thinking about what would happen, where would I eventually end if I depend my business entirely on one particular cloud vendor? What if that vendor go through an outage? How much of an impact that my business would have due to that? So people started thinking along those terms, and vendor locking became a concern over time. And then the only option is to go multi-cloud, pick several vendors, or even if you select a single vendor, go distribute into multiple data centers. Or but the most common thing is try to select multiple cloud vendors and distribute your applications across multiple vendors. But then again, going multi-cloud doesn't mean that your applications will be able to port seamlessly across different clouds, because different clouds provides different service interfaces, and your application should be developed or written in a way that it can portable easily across multiple cloud vendors. And then this is one of the last one, the insufficient infrastructure as service skills was a massive concern, and it's more or less a detractor for cloud adoption. Lots of people, because standard conventional operations and running cloud operations are not the same thing. If you're running cloud operations, that needs to have a different skill set. And lots of people, lots of organizations are still struggling to find that right skill set when it comes to adopting cloud. When I say the skill set, it's mainly the build for failure mindset, because when the moment you start deploying applications into the cloud, everything you design, every single line of code you write has to be focused into that and has to have the fault tolerant capabilities and proper resilient capabilities. So that mindset is very important. And another important skill aspect is the pipelining and automation skills. To get the full advantage or the leverage, full power of what cloud provides, pipelining your development and deployment work and have the right automation is a must. And the operation teams needs to have that skills and capabilities and the mindsets to think through those things before they start the actual development or the implementation work. So these are the main areas that enterprises are thinking through before adopting cloud. So mainly for this, due to this lack of skill aspect, over the time, a massive demand was there. There was the massive demand for managed service providers, and people who are skilled enough or capable enough to run services on cloud, to run applications or deploy applications into the cloud, started getting a higher demand from various enterprises. Let's quickly go through various trends. These trends and numbers were extracted from a report published in last May by O'Reilly and Flexera. So let's go through top cloud initiatives. So if you focus on the first few line items, most number of people are working on cost savings. So that justifies the point we discussed earlier. So cost saving, because over time people realized that people who had not done their initial homework, they eventually realized that when you run on the cloud, always figuring out the ways to optimize your usage and then have an impact on that for the total cost or the total spend you do on cloud. That's an ongoing effort. So 73% of the people are continuously putting their efforts on optimizing costs. And then 61% migrating more, offloading more work to the cloud. And the interesting fact is 51% of the people are expanding the use of containers. Container usage is again comes mainly due to two reasons. One thing, it will again help with cost savings, because with containers, you can the effectiveness or the productivity of your hardware usage becomes higher, and then eventually that will end up saving you more money. And the other aspect is, again, containerization again is a buzzword these days. So to catch up with the trend, we have seen lots of people moving into containerized platforms. And when it comes to public cloud adoption, AWS is, of course, leading. But Microsoft Asia caught up a huge market portion over the past few years. Their growth was exponential, and according to Microsoft, over the past couple of years, their growth was above 60%. So one main reason as we see for that growth is people going multi-cloud, and people earlier, they like blindly absorbed whatever AWS offered, and they were like devotees of AWS. But later on, when they figure out this vendor lock-in aspects comes in, they started moving towards other cloud, and Microsoft was a well-known industry lead for decades, and the service and the offering alternative, people picked them as an alternative offering. But the interesting fact here was the Google Cloud. If you look at the experimenting and plan to use Google Cloud, the number of people who are experimenting and planning to use Google Cloud is much higher than all the other public clouds. So one main reason for that is, again, the cost. Google is still growing. It just started, like large enterprises just started adopting Google Cloud. They're not very popular compared to AWS and Asia, but the cost of running your services on Google Cloud is relatively cheaper than AWS and Asia. So that could be one reason for people trying out Google Cloud and planning to migrate their services to Google Cloud. And the other aspect is the trend for containerization we discussed earlier. All the publicly available, all the popular containerized platforms are running Kubernetes as the underneath management service. And Google invented Kubernetes, and they are providing that as a cloud service as part of their Google Cloud platform. So that could be another reason. Majority of the people who are trying out containerized services and moving their applications into containers, they must be adopting Google Cloud as their first choice. So that could be another reason for this 26% and 12% usage of Google Cloud. And the cloud usage due to COVID-19. So it's unbelievable to see soon after we hit COVID-19, how people speed up their efforts on moving into cloud, and how significantly higher they are planning to move into the cloud. So both SMEs and large enterprises have increased their efforts, and they want to move into the cloud mainly because of this remoteness. And they started feeling, rather than giving standalone services, rather than offering standalone products, industry started realizing the importance of hosted services, and they want to use cloud as the first choice. Okay, so I will just go through cloud operations. When it comes to cloud operations, there are two aspects. One is the server reliability engineering, which was a term introduced by Google, and there's this DevOps aspect. So what are the main differences? Those two are, again, buzzword. DevOps was a buzzword for the past decade. And it was popular. It began popular around over the past 5 years or so. But SRE was a term that we started hearing only in the recent past, but now it's becoming very popular. So the key differences are SRE people are the development people, are the people who write code that are focusing on the operations aspect. But the DevOps people are the operation folks that are focusing on the development concerns. And the main responsibility of SRE is to think of the robustness, the fault tolerantness, how to improve the uptime, how to add an extra 9 to the uptime, and the scalability aspects, how to scale fast, scale up fast, and how to scale down slowly. Think along those lines and build systems with those capabilities. On the other hand, DevOps people's main responsibility is to take care of continuous integration and continuous delivery so that they can reduce the time a change that happens on a developer's workstation go through the build process and go through the testing cycles and deploy into the production in a shorter time as possible. At the same time, SRE peoples they are responsible to run analytics. When it comes to analytics, it's not just the application monitoring. It's about performance monitoring. It's about how the hardware works, how to optimize those things, and basically generate all sorts of events and data from the deployment, and then see how they can improve the overall story further. But when it comes to DevOps people, it's all about building environments, infrastructure as code, configuration management, adopting configuration management practices. That is the main responsibility. So these are the major two aspects you have to think through before adopting cloud, and the areas that you have to build skills within your teams. Now I'll talk about how WSO2 can help you along your cloud journey and how we can help you to adopt cloud faster. So obviously, most of you know, we have a cloud compatible as well as a cloud native product stack. All the latest version or product versions we release are 100% compatible with cloud, and the previous versions we released, the earlier versions, are 100% cloud compatible. And there are many success stories of running WSO2 products in the cloud on virtual machines and in containers and on multiple platforms. There are so many success stories around that. And at the same time, WSO2 offers automated cloud installers to make your cloud installation process easy. And we have made it very simple, and using only 3 to 4 steps, you can have a fully featured production-ready cloud setup on all major cloud platforms. So, and it takes about 10 to 15 minutes tops. And we are providing config management recipes for Puppet and Ansible for DevOps people who want to run configuration management. And at the same time, we are providing infrastructure as code recipes as well for CloudFormation, using CloudFormation for AWS and Terraform for Microsoft Azure. So using these installers and recipes, the time you have to figure out how to build the setup, how to build an environment, and how to deploy WSO2 products into the cloud becomes very less. And with just by following copy and pastable steps that you can find in our documentation, you can get a fully production ready cloud setup in any major platform. So finally, I'll talk about pipelines and managed cloud services that WSO2 offers. We have a pipeline solution that we build targeting virtual machines and container platforms. And that pipeline is a fully automated CI/CD flow, comes pre-configured, and it's highly customizable. That means it's a product that built around Jenkins, and we have all the product deployment instructions and all the necessary resources packed around it with support for multiple environments. And it will give you a simple interface here where you need to input where to read your source code and the configurations and whatever the artifacts you want to deploy in the cloud. And the pipeline will figure out how to build and how to test and how to package your artifact into either a virtual machine image or a container image and roll out to the cloud. And it comes with value-added services such as dynamic monitoring and so on. And over the time, WSO2 started using cloud services more than a decade ago. So over the time, we have built a massive group with massive amount of skills around the cloud, around various aspects of the cloud, around writing code to the cloud, around deploying into the cloud, around running clouds. And we started this service a couple of years ago. And because we have this skill and we know there's a gap in the market for this skill. And that's why we thought of starting offering this as a service. Managed cloud service means we take the responsibility, WSO2 take the responsibility of running the cloud, running and managing the cloud on behalf of our customers. And that is being carried out by a large number of certified engineers. And we have two offerings, the light offering for small scale deployments and the full offering for massive, complex, large scale deployments. And currently we provide the managed service on top of Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. So I think we have come to an end, and I would like to take questions probably after the session. So thank you for listening and have a nice day.
Thank you, Chamith. Brian, if you can just switch the videos for us. So that was an awesome presentation. I really appreciate that insight, Chamith. I think that we know that the IT industry is a fashion industry. You've made good points in terms of some of the hype and that it's not a silver bullet, and that if you don't know the reasons for doing it and you don't go in eyes wide open, plus with the change in skill sets that are required. So you did well in pointing out that you don't just, if you think you're just going to sort of lift and shift, I think you might be in for some rude awakenings. And I know that Gino is going to pick up on some of those points.